Hey Flatirons, thanks for joining us online for our new series, Muscle Memory, where we're going to talk strategy and training for how to live the life Jesus intended us to live. If you have any questions along the way, you can get a hold of us at flatironschurch.com or across social media.
All right, what's up? We good? Hi. Hey, you braved what the news was calling Winter Apocalypse 2K19, which has been a letdown so far, in my opinion, but I'm glad you're here. Hey, so I want to jump right into today. So today is the first week of our new series called Muscle Memory. And today I'm just doing an introduction. All right, I'm going to set the framework for our series. I'm going to introduce you to a tool that we're going to use for the next few weeks in the middle of this series. But I think a good place to start is to talk about what I mean when I say muscle memory and how it relates to us. And I think the best way to do that is let you in my life a little bit, let you know that recently I have picked up rock climbing again. I don't know if there's rock climbers out here, but I am one and I love it. It's one of my favorite hobbies. To kind of give you a good picture of what kind of climbing I've been doing, I decided to bring in some personal photos to share with you. And so here's a picture of me climbing last week, give you a good idea. It's me climbing El Cap with no ropes. Here's a close-up so that you know it's not photoshopped. It's me climbing. Those are my arms. Here's the Oscar-winning documentary they just made about my life, Free Solo. It's a great movie. Go see it. This is one of the weirder requests I have made of our creative team. I was like, can you put my face on the body of a guy who's climbing rocks? And it just goes to show they get weird requests all the time because they just didn't laugh. They were like, yeah, sure, when do you want that by? But I did decide to bring only one real photo of me rock climbing, which is this. It gives you a better picture of what I do. Half my time rock climbing is spent falling, but I picked it back up. It's one of my favorite hobbies. I love it. When I first moved out here in 2010, my brother-in-law, Nick, and I, we would go all the time. We'd go like 3 or 4 times a week. I had no kids at the time. I had a different role at the church. I had more time. And when I was going frequently, I got into this rhythm. All right, so anyone who's got a physical activity that's a hobby, you know the rhythm I'm talking about. I started forming all the calluses in all the right places, and I was getting stronger, and I had learned and knew all the gear and the knots and the technique. I didn't have to think as much anymore about like how to position myself on the wall. In other words, the act and skill of rock climbing had become ingrained into my muscle memory. Like I knew what to do without having to think about it too much. I could tie the knots with my eyes closed. I didn't, but I could. I could climb the roots while still talking to my friends. And when I fell off the wall, I wasn't terrified anymore. Right? I knew the whole system would work. It was muscle memory. I knew what I was doing. I had done it thousands of times. Right? Of course, I then took a 9-year hiatus from rock climbing, and everything that had become muscle memory is now gone from my memory. And more drastically, it is gone from my muscles. And so I am having to relearn all of the technique and all the gear and all the knots, and the fear is back, right? And my hands and my feet are tearing to shreds again. But my goal is to train so that rock climbing, the act of rock climbing, becomes muscle memory again. And this concept of muscle memory is fascinating to me, all right? I've even read a whole book on it because I'm a nerd and I don't care what you think about me. Your brain has this entire section of it where its whole purpose is to create and store habits for yourself, good or bad, right? This part of our brain is necessary to function because think of it like this. Think of the thousands of tasks that you do every single day. Everything, turning off your alarm, brewing coffee, taking a shower, getting dressed, driving your car to work, on and on and on. There's thousands of tasks we do every day. If your brain had to think about each one of those tasks as if it was the first time you were doing it every single day, you couldn't handle it. You'd have to think too much. You'd short circuit. So God gave us this part of our brains that's like, hey, don't worry about it. That's habit now. You don't have to think twice about it. I got this. And you autopilot. It's fascinating to me. Here's the best hands-on example of this. I want you to do something with me, all right? So if you have shoes on that can tie, all right, bend over and untie your right shoe, right? I'll do it with you so that I'm not asking you to do something that I won't do myself. Untie your right shoe, all right? And I'm not going to ask you to take your shoes off, all right? I've been to the church where you wash each other's feet. It's gross. I don't want to do it today. All right? So now here's what you do. Take your laces, all right? And then while looking at me, don't look at your shoes, just look at me. tie your shoe again? Some of you struggling, that's okay. I won't call your name out. That's muscle memory. So your fingers are doing something very, very complex when you tie your shoe. But now you don't have to think twice about it. You don't even have to look at your shoe, most of you, in order to tie it anymore, all right? But what's crazy is that there was a time when you had no idea how to tie your shoe, all right? And it's not like that information just popped into your brain when you reached a certain age, all right? It's not like puberty where you just wake up one day and you have it 2 years later than all your friends, right? Instead, whether you realized it or not, at the time you were undergoing training. You were training in the subtle art form of shoe tying. So here's what I mean by that. You had to learn how to tie your shoes, first of all, right? Someone probably taught you some rhyme about bunny ears jumping through holes in trees or whatever, however the rhyme goes. You had to learn it. You had to eliminate obstacles, right? The Velcro shoes had to go, right? And begging your parents to just do it for you had to go. And then, of course, you just had to do the thing. You had to practice tying your shoes over and over and over again. And those three things, learn, eliminate, practice, with that training, when you do that, that is training. And when you train over time, that's when you change. All right, that's when you go from, stalling out your stick shift constantly when you're 15. You move from that to being a proficient licensed driver. Right? That's when you go from intro to guitar lessons, where you learn how to tune your guitar and you learn scales. You go from that to Jimi Hendrix, right? Or hopefully. That's when your before and after photos start to actually look different from the gym. When you train, you learn and eliminate and practice. When you train over time, that's when you go from bunny ears to just you're a shoe tyer now. It's who you are, right? Things that were once unfamiliar and clunky to you are now muscle memory. And when that happens, you change. So what does that have to do with Jesus in this series? It's this. So in this muscle memory series, we're going back to Jesus' most famous sermon that he ever delivered, called the Sermon on the Mount. And we're going to pick up where we left off in December, back in Matthew 6. All right? Just to kind of refresh our memories. In the first part of Jesus' sermon, all he does is he gives vision. All right? He gives you a vision of what life could look like if you lived it in the kingdom of heaven, or as we talk about it in here, if you lived a with God kind of life. He gives vision. He gives great vision. All right? He says the with God kind of life is available to anyone and everyone, regardless of what baggage you walked in with. Then he explains what the with God kind of life looks like, and he says that if we live that life over time, eventually we'll develop new muscle memory, like new spiritual muscle memory. We'll have new motivations from which we act out of, and we'll have new reactions to people and situations. That was our heart attack series. Maybe you remember this. All right, Jesus said that eventually we'll react with forgiveness and patience as opposed to anger and contempt. We'll react with intimacy instead of lust, integrity instead of manipulation. We'll react with wisdom instead of immediate retaliation. And it's good vision. Right? And so for most of us, we're like, yeah, we're in. I love that. I would want that. I want to live that way. It sounds like a good life. But if we don't know how to chase after it, if we don't know how to train for that new kind of life, we give up. And if we're being honest, that's the spot that a lot of us are in right now, especially after the Man series last weekend. Use that as an example for the men in the room. We caught the vision. Right? We're like, yeah, I'm in. That sounds great. I want to be a good man like that. I want to put on the armor of God and provide and protect and gladly assume sacrificial responsibility. I want to live that way. I'm in. We caught the vision. Right? We have the intent. Over 2,500 people crossed the thin red line last weekend. That public step declaring that we're going to move into spiritual leadership. And last weekend, over 700 of us were baptized. We've got the vision. We have the intent. But then for a lot of us, use the men as an example, we woke up on Monday morning in a panic, right? We have people counting on us. We have wives, girlfriends, children. We got employees, bosses, spouses, and they saw us make those steps last weekend, and they are counting on us to be good on our promise to be good men. And so we woke up on Monday morning, and we stared at our brand new thin red line bracelet, and in a panic, we thought to ourselves, what is the plan here? Like, what is my strategy for becoming the kind of man or woman that Jesus designed me to be? And the original crowd that Jesus was speaking to in the Sermon on the Mount, they would have had the same reaction after the first part of Jesus' sermon. They would have gone, Jesus, we get it. That sounds great. We want to live that kind of life. How do we get there? And that's why in the next part of Jesus' sermon, because he's smart, he gives us strategy. And according to Jesus, the strategy is training. Jesus outlines what learning and eliminating and practicing look like in the with God kind of life. He gives us examples of how to do those things. Right? And he describes what happens when we do that well and when we do that poorly. And that's what we're going to talk about for the next 3 to 4 weeks in here. If a new muscle memory, like a new spiritual muscle memory is the goal, then Jesus gives us the training regimen necessary to rewire our muscle memory. And so he talks about prayer. This will give you a good idea where we're headed for the next few weeks. He talks about prayer as a way of continually learning and knowing new things about who God is and what he wants for us. He talks about fasting. Fasting is a way of eliminating obstacles that stand between us and a with God kind of life. And he talks about giving as a way of putting the things that we're learning into practice. And if we add all three of those components together at the same time in unison, then we are now in the act of spiritual training. And if we train over time, that's when Jesus makes us into different kinds of people. We have all new habits and all new muscle memory. And so that's kind of where we're headed for the next few weeks. And even though the series is completely based out of Matthew 6, I'm actually not going to teach on Matthew 6 today, because today is just introduction. And so I'm going to jump to another part of the Bible written by a guy named Paul, who gives us an introduction to the concept of spiritual training. And then I'm going to put a diagram on screen because it's a tool that we're going to use for the next 3 to 4 weeks. And so we got to get familiar with it. All right, so here is Paul's concept of the introduction to spiritual training. He says this. He goes, hey, don't you know that in a race, all the runners run, all right, but only one receives the prize? So you and I should run this thing as if we're trying to obtain the prize. So Paul uses running a race as a metaphor here. He's smart. He knows his crowd, all right? He's talking to men and women who live in a city called Corinth. And at the time, that city Corinth hosted what is called the Isthmian Games, right? If you know your history, you know what that is. At the time, the Isthmian Games are second in honor and importance only to the Olympic Games, all right? They're a huge, huge deal. So Paul knows his crowd, and Paul says, hey, this life that we're trying to live, it's kind of like running one of the races at the Isthmian Games or the Olympic Games, right? Meaning there's no excuse for us to just go halfway on the thing. Caught myself. No excuse for that. No excuse to just jog the thing. You got to go all out. You got to run it like you're trying to win something, like you're competing. Okay, how do we do that? Well, we go into training. That's what Paul says next. Everyone who competes in the Isthmian Games, the Olympic Games, they go into strict training. And then he explains what training looks like. He goes, listen, so I'm in training. And because of that, I don't run aimlessly. And I don't box. He talks about fighting. I don't box as one beating the air. Instead, I discipline my body and I keep it under control, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified. What that last part means is, I don't want to teach other people to live the with God life and then look down my road and realize I haven't lived it myself. And if you don't want to be that way, you got to go into spiritual training. And he describes what it looks like. He says, first of all, we can't run aimlessly. We have to know what kind of life that we're aiming for. In other words, we have to continually learn new things about who Jesus is and what he wants for our lives. We got to learn. Paul also says that we have to discipline our bodies and keep them under control. We have to put our minds back in charge of our bodies and our actions. Jim just recently talked about that. In other words, we have to eliminate obstacles, cut out anything that stands between us and the with God kind of life. And then, of course, we just have to actually put into practice all the stuff that we're learning in rooms like this. That's the first verse we read. He goes, don't you know that in a race, at the very least, all the runners run? Like they do the thing. But it's got to be all three of those things working in unison at the same time, learning, eliminating, and practicing, if we want to step into spiritual training in order to rewire our muscle memory. And if one of those components gets left out, then we always wind up in one of three places. We wind up failing, or frustrated, or hypocritical. And I want to walk us through those three things right now, because not only has this diagram helped me troubleshoot my life lately, but it's also kind of the foundation that we're going to use for the next 3 to 4 weeks. So we got to spend some time getting used to it. So what happens if we lose one of those components to spiritual training? Let's start here. What happens if we do away with learning anything new? All right, let's use running a race as an example, all right? Let's say you've eliminated the obstacles. All right, so you've made time in your calendar to dedicate to running. And you've realized that the Crocs aren't cutting it anymore. And so you threw them away. And you got running shoes, right? You've prepared. You've eliminated the obstacles. And then you're out there practicing. You're running. Well, if you haven't learned anything new about running, that means when the race starts, you have no idea how many laps you're going to have to run, and you don't know where to start, and you don't know where to finish, and you don't know what to eat before and after a race. If you haven't learned any of those things, Paul says you're going to end up running aimlessly. You're just going to take off in the wrong direction. And if we do that, we're setting ourselves up for failure. Apply this to real life right now. How many of us feel just like stuck in failure? We want to be good men. We want to be good women and spouses and friends and parents. We just keep failing. If that's the case, it could be because we are not continually learning new things about who Jesus is and what he wants for our lives. We have no idea what we're aiming for. We're running in the wrong direction. We're aimless. We're failing. This happens whenever we find ourselves praying stuff like, God, who am I? And who are you? And what do you want with my life? We ask those questions because we really don't know the answers. We haven't learned them. And we're set up for failure. What about this? What happens if we do away with eliminating obstacles? Back to running a race. You're learning new things. So now you know it's 4 laps that make a mile. And you know where to start. And you know where the finish line is. You have the goal in sight. And you're out there and you're practicing. If you do those things, but you haven't eliminated the obstacles, meaning you are still sprinting in your Crocs and you're getting blisters and you're trying to hydrate during the race with Mountain Dew Code Red or whatever, and you're eating pizza every single night instead of whatever it is, runners eat. I don't know what they eat. They eat gel in packets or something stupid like that. But if you do those things, but you haven't eliminated the obstacles, you're doomed for frustration. That's a very frustrating way to run a race because you know the goal and you know how to get there, but you're not going to make it. You haven't prepared. You haven't eliminated the obstacles. Back to real life, how many of us feel constantly spiritually frustrated when it comes to becoming the kind of men and the women that we want to become? If that's the case, it could be because we have not eliminated some of the obstacles that stand between us and a with God kind of life. We haven't worked on any of the old addictions or habits or the old ways of thinking that have just been ingrained in us for the majority of our lives. That's why it always feels 1 step forward and 2 steps back. This happens whenever we find ourselves praying stuff like, God, when are you going to fix me already? Right? When are you going to make all these addictions and habits and roadblocks just disappear overnight? And then reality sets in and they don't disappear overnight and we haven't put in the work to eliminate them. It's a very frustrating way to live your life. And then the last one, what happens if we do away with practicing? Back to running a race. You've learned new things. You've eliminated the obstacles. You just don't run. At that point, you're an armchair expert, all right? You know a lot of stuff about running. You own all the cool, expensive running gear. You're still not a runner. And when it comes to the with God kind of life, Jesus reserves some of his harshest language for spiritual armchair experts. He calls it hypocrisy. He says you're hypocrites. You know all the right Bible answers. You just don't put any of it into practice in your own life. And this happens whenever we find ourselves praying condescending things. Like, God, please help these messy, broken people I'm surrounded by. Help them to become more like me. Oh, they're a mess. It also happens when we go to bed at night and our head hits the pillow and there's nothing to distract us anymore. And you guys know what I'm talking about. You have those brief moments of objective clarity about your own life. And that's when you start praying and you say, God, I know I'm a liar and I'm a phony and I'm a hypocrite and I'm sorry. See this diagram up here? It's like a map for troubleshooting our lives. All right, it's been very helpful for me personally, because anytime I feel dead-ended by trying to be a good husband or father or pastor or whatever, I usually feel one of those three things. I feel hypocritical or frustrated, or I feel like a failure. And when we see it all laid out like that, then we can look at our lives and start to see maybe what's missing. And if we know what's missing, we can maybe add it back in. And if we add it back in, we can start running this with God kind of life like we're out to win the thing, as Paul says. And so this kind of spiritual training only is possible when all three of those things are working at the same time in unison. We are learning new things about who Jesus is and what he wants for our lives. We are eliminating the obstacles that stand between us and a with God kind of life. And we are putting the things that we're learning into practice. That's what it looks like to go into strict training like Paul talks about. And if we train like that over time, we will see actual change in our lives. We will develop new habits. And we'll have new muscle memory. Jesus knew this was the case. And that's why he gave us a training regimen in the next part of his Sermon on the Mount. And that's where we're going to spend the next few weeks together. Now, that's a lot of information. All right, it's okay if it feels a bit overwhelming, because we're going to spend the next 3 to 4 weeks unpacking that diagram in detail and unpacking Matthew 6 in detail. For now, here's what I would suggest. Just keep that thing in front of you. Take a picture of it, or check our social media for it. And if you want to get the most out of this series, all right, especially for the men in the room who have brand new thin red line bracelets on your wrists, you want to be a good man, but you don't know the strategy yet, especially for you, all right? Just keep this thing in front of you and reference it. All you got to do for the next week is take note of any time you feel spiritually frustrated or hypocritical or you feel like a failure. Just take note of it and then look at that situation in the light of this diagram and see if there's anything maybe you're missing. And then you come back next week and we'll jump into Matthew 6 and we'll see if we can't add that stuff back into our lives and see actual change. All right, now, so here's what I want to do with the rest of our time. I'm actually almost done, which is shocking. All right, but here's how I want to end together. All right, I want to take communion together. All right, so what is communion and who's it for? Communion is our chance to pause and reflect in the middle of the chaos and the snowstorm, literally and figuratively, right? It's our chance to pause and remember who Jesus is and what he has already accomplished for us. Who is it for? It is for any of you who have put your trust in him. It's very different from me saying any of you who have him completely figured out. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not that. It's for anyone who says, I'm a wreck, he's not, I trust him. If that's you, this is for you right now. And I want to take communion this weekend, like right between, having baptisms and Thin Red Line last weekend and then marching into this new series. I want to do communion today because I think there's this risk we run anytime we talk about stuff like this. So anytime, for example, that we throw a diagram on the screen and we talk about all the necessary steps we can take to enjoy the better, more abundant, with God kind of life that Jesus designed for us, anytime we do that, I think we run the risk of tricking ourselves into believing a lie. And the lie would be that this Jesus, God, Bible, Christianity stuff is just one self-help scheme, and that's all it is. And so in this moment right now, as we take communion, it is our chance as a church, as a family, to remain crystal clear on who Jesus is and what he has already accomplished for us. And I think it's important timing for us to take communion together. Because I know, on a deeper, realer level than you might realize, I know what the last week has been like for many of us. I mean, especially any of us who were baptized. Any of the people who crossed the thin red line, made that public declaration of stepping into spiritual leadership. I know that for most of us who made those commitments, we probably just had a very terrible week. I know that. It was a week filled with old addictions and old habits that did not magically disappear overnight. It's a week filled with doubt. Doubt that anything really has ever changed about me or that anything ever will change. It's a week filled with insecurity, right? Am I really enough? I know, I've talked to you, I know your stories. I know that it was a week filled with lost jobs and lost family members and worst case test results. It was a week filled with broken down cars and flooded basements and more bills and more debt. And it was a week filled with all of the anger and frustration and hopelessness that comes with all that stuff. Listen, it never changes. It is always the same. Anytime we decide to step up, there is this enemy who immediately and often drastically tries to sit your butt back down. And the truth is, if we have convinced ourselves that the with God kind of life is up to us and us alone, you will sit back down 100% of the time. And so I want to be very clear about something right now on this weekend. This diagram that we just walked through, that we're going to spend the next 3 to 4 weeks on, this series that we're entering into, it has nothing to do with BS self-help. Go buy an Oprah book if you want that. It has nothing to do with self-help. It has to do with discipleship. That is the Bible-y word for spiritual training, right? It is the part of our relationship with God where we can actually contribute something. We can actually put some skin in the game, which means this: that diagram on the screen and this series has nothing to do with earning the things that we cannot earn from Jesus. Can't let ourselves believe that. It's an exhausting way to live your life. And it robs Jesus of all the honor and the glory that he deserves for having earned those things on our behalf. And so as we take communion together, we are going to remind ourselves of what God has already done for us. Because we believe that God loved us so much, he loved us so well, that he gave his son Jesus to us as like an ambassador on his behalf. And Jesus lived this life of spiritual training, learning, eliminating, practicing. He lived it to perfection. And then he willingly allowed himself to be hung on a cross for us. He willingly placed on his back everything that we have deserved, the punishment, the judgment that we have deserved for putting distance between ourselves and our God. In the person of Jesus, God himself placed on his own back all of our sin and judgment and condemnation, and he nailed it to a cross. It's eternally dead, so that you and I don't have to pay for it. And then God brought Jesus back to life so that you and I have an actual shot at an eternal with God kind of life. Listen, for those of us who just got baptized or we got brand new thin red line bracelets on our wrists, I know we're second guessing ourselves right now. I know we woke up on Monday morning and we realized we got little to no idea what it looks like to become the kind of men and women that we were designed to be. I know, join the club, me too. All right, but listen, all of that stuff, we will get it figured out. We really will. We can get that figured out over time. It's going to take time. So you can second guess yourself all you want, all right? It's normal. Most of the time, it's even pretty healthy. But when we take communion, this is the act of us declaring that we are not second guessing what Jesus has done for us. Which means this: I can't promise that your life is going to be easy. I would never promise that. I can't promise that because you got baptized, that means your bills are going to be paid on time and your families are going to stay healthy and the cancer is going to go away. I can't promise it. I can promise that what Jesus has done for us is truly done. It's finished. It's accomplished. You are forgiven for every dumb, foolish thing you have ever done or you will ever do. God is not lording that over you. He's not that kind of Lord. I can promise that because of Jesus, when God sees us, he does not see failures and he does not see mistakes. I know your friends and I know your bosses and I know your parents told you that. Those words have never passed over the lips of our God. Because of Jesus, when he sees us, he sees sons and he sees daughters. He sees people he paid a very great price to call family. As we take communion together, these are the things we're supposed to be reflecting on and considering and remembering. All the other stuff, all right? The spiritual training, the discipleship, we will get that figured out over time. This stuff has been figured out and it's timeless. It's going to stick. And so I'm going to read us a few verses to get us in the right mindset, all right? And then I'm going to pray and we're going to take communion together and we're going to fix our eyes on Jesus, the one that we have put all of our hope and our trust in. So close your eyes with me. This is Hebrews 12. Just sit and let these words sink in. This is God speaking to us. Let us throw off everything that hinders. Throw it off. Let us throw off the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. And let us fix our eyes on Jesus. He's the author. He crafted the whole thing, and he's the perfecter. He accomplished it. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and the perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, and he scorned its shame, and he sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him. Remember him, reflect on him, consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men. Consider him so that you and I will not grow weary and we won't lose heart. Right now, in this moment, in all these different campuses or houses, these man-made buildings where we sit, we are not lost out here on our own. Instead, you have come to Mount Zion. You've come to the heavenly Jerusalem, the city of the living God, meaning we are sitting in the presence of Jesus himself right now. You have come to thousands upon thousands of angels in joyful assembly to the church of the firstborn, whose names are written in heaven. You have come to God, the judge of all men. A judge who, by the way, has declared you innocent. You have come to the spirits of righteous men made perfect. And you have come to Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant, the one who made this possible for us. And therefore, because that is our reality right now, therefore, since we are receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken, no matter how hard your week or your month or your year has been or will be, since we are receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken, let us be thankful. And let us worship God acceptably, with reverence and with awe. Dear God, I thank you for who you are. I thank you for your son, Jesus, and everything that he's accomplished for us. God, in this moment during communion, please let it serve in the way it's supposed to serve. You gave it to serve us. It's this chance to just hit pause in the middle of the chaos and remember how good you are and remember the things that you have accomplished for us, and they're done. God, please give us whatever we need to take full advantage of this moment right now. We need to pause and reflect. We got to remember that we are broken and you are not. And we go back on our word and you do not. And we have no idea where we are going and you do. We are one step forward and two steps back, and you don't run ahead of us. You just take one step forward and two steps back with us. You match our pace. God, help us to reflect on that right now. Please, God, do something in our hearts where we catch it, make us thankful. God, allow us to worship you acceptably, with reverence and with awe. I thank you for who you are. I thank you for your son and everything he has done for us. God, I thank you for Jesus, the one who ran the race and crossed the finish line and immediately turned back to come and walk with us. I will worship you forever because of him. I love you very much, and it's in his name that I pray. Jesus Christ. Amen.